Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Monday Night Raw review. And this Raw was the fallout from Payback last night. And I gotta say, this is a very enjoyable Raw. I had fun with it. We're barreling right or wrong to Extreme Rules in 20 nights. And, yeah, I got some logical storyline progression, some fun matchups, some contenders established for other championships. And yeah, this show seemed to really pack quite a punch. The first Raw of the quote-unquote new era of co-power being shared between Shane and Stephanie McMahon. And I thought it was a pretty nice outing, and the crowd was great, too. Ashton, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I think that the crowd was really what made this show feel special. Honestly, if it wasn't for the crowd, this probably would have been like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. Based on the show and the crowd all kind of combining to make one big cool thing together, I'd probably give it like a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I've said before on past Raw TWitWows, I think a crowd can really make a difference between like an ass show or even like a really amazing show, elevated to that legendary status. And this is the case here. I felt like it was an average Raw before the crowd, but you factor in the crowd, and I think you had a really enjoyable episode of Monday Night Raw. So, yeah, kudos to this crowd tonight. They did a wonderful job. And with that said, let's get right into our first segment, Heat of the night. And I've got 0 heats of the night tonight, to be honest. I got 0 nitpicks. Nothing about this show really irked me. There may have been 1 or 2 segments where I wanted to groan, but nothing really noteworthy to really pick apart, at least on my end. Ashton, do you have any heats of the night tonight?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the exact same boat as you. I feel like there were no real groan, like really awful moments, but I was right there with you in that there were like 1 or 2 talking moments that I kind of groaned at. But again, it's both of the instances of groanage were done by heels, so you can get away with it.
Right. So with that said, let us get right into our Monday Night Raw review. And we open this baby up with Stephanie McMahon coming out. She starts everything off, and she pretty much says, did you guys miss me and all that stuff, and kind of saying, well, she's back, and kind of establishing that foothold. And before, though, we can get into a long 20-minute boring Stephanie McMahon promo, Shane cuts her off at the pass. And, this is pretty much the sight that we're going to have to get used to seeing. Shane and Stephanie sharing the stage. And, they're going to get into, what the plans are for Monday Night Raw. But before we do any of that, Stephanie gives Shane what I would consider kind of a peace offering, starting off on the right foot. It was the picture that Vince destroyed in the lead up to Shane's match with The Undertaker at Mania. Yep. Vince holding a baby Shane, all nice and framed and, kind of replenished, no longer broken and destroyed, but, refurbished, I think was the word I was looking for, refurbished photo. Shane seems genuinely moved by the gesture, and he says, well, let's hear your plans for tonight's Raw. And then Stephanie says, well, I'll take a page from your book. Do you guys want to hear Shane's plans? And the crowd cheers. Or my plans, boo. And they do the whole back and forth thing. But then, a most pleasant surprise, this family affair is interrupted by Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens comes out, and he says, you guys talk about, whose ideas get to go first. You want to hear my idea? You people want to hear my idea? Well, I don't care if you want to hear my idea, and honestly, I don't even care if you two want to hear my idea. I'm going to tell it to you anyway. My idea is that I get what I deserve, and that's my rematch for the Intercontinental Championship. And, he said, how's that for an idea? And he does say to Stephanie, he does show partiality to Stephanie being the more heel side of the equation. Yeah. You've always been fairer to me. You've always been just. And after leadership with your brother these last few weeks, I know I can count on you. I'm talking sense, right? And somebody's like, oh, absolutely. And I feel like Kevin Owens is about to get his rightful rematch that every ex-champion is entitled to when more familiar music hits, this time Cesaro, and he makes the case, look, I should be Intercontinental Champion right now. This concerns me, because had you not gotten involved in my match last night, I'd be the champion. I had Miz beat. He was tapping out to me. And Cesaro used the phrase, if Mr. Whining and Complaining didn't get involved, and then Kevin Owens interjected, I agree, Sami Zayn had no business getting involved in your match, but this isn't about you, this is about me. And then before he could even finish, Cesaro says, no, this is everything to do with me. I want another shot at The Miz. I want a return match for the Intercontinental Championship. And so this is resolved by having Cesaro and Kevin Owens compete one-on-one once again for the number one contendership for the Intercontinental title. If this strikes you as familiar, it should be. We got this exact same scenario a few weeks ago, but I don't even say that as a complaint. It's just that these two really do seem to be vying for that Intercontinental Championship. So we get the groundwork set for our opening matchup here, Ashton, that being Cesaro versus Kevin Owens.
Yeah, and these guys put on a really, really fun match, too. I really enjoyed this. I gotta say, I kind of felt like The Miz and Maurice stole the show a little bit on commentary. I really enjoyed their work.
Yeah, they were exceptional. I liked how Miz was just vehemently denying, look, there was no cheating, there was no this, that. I beat Cesaro, fairly. And, of course, all the talk about being an A-lister and all the stuff that he does with Maurice, which is just gold. I mean, you and I have been saying for a while now that we think Maurice really rounds out the Miz's current, Hollywood A-lister type gimmick. Yeah. And he really feels like such a complete heel right now. He's not really lacking.
She makes him so much better.
She does. She really enhances the gimmick, and I think she really enhances the Miz as a whole, as a performer. And I really have to commend her for that. And it's a great act that these two have put together. And, it's a great back and forth that's happening between Cesaro and Kevin Owens. I mean, these guys are just two types of workers that always have great chemistry with each other. Yep. Kind of like how we felt about the likes of, pairings as diverse as like Kalisto and Ryback, for instance. Some performers just get it with each other. And Cesaro and Kevin Owens, I think, are certainly in that category. And when it seems like Cesaro's in control at one point, he gives an uppercut to Kevin Owens, and then he gives an uppercut right to The Miz, knocking him down. And then he gets Kevin Owens back in the ring, and it looks like he's going to give him the giant swing, the Cesaro swing. When Miz comes in, he attacks Cesaro, which you would think would give Cesaro the DQ win. And Kevin Owens at first takes umbrage with this. He's like, man, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, getting up in the Miz's face. I think they're about to get physical, but then Cesaro regains his bearings. He re-interjects himself in the situation, starts brawling with both guys, but of course the numbers game is not on Cesaro's side for the moment, as Miz and Kevin Owens gang up on Cesaro. But then Sami Zayn comes out to make the save. And, Kevin Owens is immediately ready to throw down. I liked how you exclaimed. You had a great reaction. Kevin Owens always seems to get this look on his face when Sami Zayn's music hits.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. And they just immediately throw down. And, yeah, ultimately the ring gets cleared. Maurice saves Miz again, this time from Sami Zayn. But that's not before that Kevin Owens eats a haluva kick. And it seems Sami Zayn stands tall on this night, and the segment ends, and this was really quite the imagery for the post-match of the opening match here. Sami Zayn grabbing the Intercontinental Championship, posing with it in front of the crowd, which is doing raucous yes chants, showing their approval at the idea of Sami Zayn Intercontinental Champion. That's really quite a great moment for a babyface to have, to really punctuate. Yeah, he's here to stay, and he's totally arrived as far as fandom goes among the crowd. That was just awesome.
That yes chant was brilliant.
Yeah, it was. I mean, what a sight it was, because so many people were doing it, dude. I mean, that is the definition of over. Sammy certainly has it. Honestly, to me, Cesaro, Sammy, or if they want to give Miz his run, I think all three would be ideal Intercontinental Champions. I mean, it's not just the idea, I want this for Kevin Owens, but I feel like he really did have his run with the belt. I think it'd be a great introduction for Zayn, especially because I don't see him in that main event picture right away. Not because I don't believe he could pull it off. I just don't think WWE sees him in that spot right away. Yeah. So it would be an organic step in the right direction, I think, to put a mid-card title on him, and especially the IC title, which I think, when you've got guys like Owens, Cesaro, Zayn gunning for it, is more like kind of like the workhorse title or the worker title. But of course, Miz is holding it right now, and people would debate if he fits that description. I don't know. Sami Zayn very well could be the next Intercontinental Champion, and I wouldn't really protest it too much if it happened. I think it'd be a nice pairing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, honestly, I'm fully expecting us to get some kind of a tag team match, whether it's on SmackDown or just next Monday, where you have, Owens and Miz on one side and then Sami and Cesaro on the other, and these guys just kind of go at it that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do expect this all to culminate in a fatal four-way match at Extreme Rules. I don't know if there's going to be a stip to this particular fatal four-way or if it's just going to be a fatal four-way.
I hope it's a fatal four-way elimination match so that the Miz can get eliminated first and we can have a guaranteed new champion right away. That would ramp it up so much.
Oh my God, and especially given the three remaining people involved, Cesaro, Owens, and Zayn, that would be just insanity.
Yep.
I really like that idea, actually. We may get a fatal four-way elimination match. We'll see. But yeah, for tonight, Sami Zayn stands tall, and him posing in the Intercontinental title, at least as far as this city was concerned, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was such a cool moment. Up next, though, we had what was next? That's right. They showed Stephanie walking backstage, and she kind of came across Dean Ambrose. And Dean was all just like, oh, I'm not really convinced of this whole new nice Stephanie charade. And Stephanie was just like, you know what, Dean? I'll tell you what. If you really don't believe it, I will be your guest tonight on the Ambrose Asylum. And, of course, Dean loves that idea. So.
Yeah, he's like, oh, my goodness, my show will get, like, the highest ratings ever having a McMahon on there. So,
I'm sure that's what they want you to believe, yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, we have got Stephanie McMahon as a guest confirmed for the Ambrose Asylum tonight.
Yep. All right, so now we get another backstage segment. R-Truth and Tyler Breeze chilling out backstage. Tyler has his selfie stick, and R-Truth has a selfie literal stick, as in like a twig from a tree with his phone attached to it. Truth tries to teach Tyler how to rap, but Tyler just kind of ignores him. And then Goldust shows up and kind of makes fun of him. Fandango also shows up, and Goldust kind of shows off like, oh yeah, this is my partner. He's awesome. He can gyrate his hips with the best of them. And R-Truth is just kind of like, yeah, whatever, man. Tyler's going to beat you tonight because they have a match.
Yes, that's right. They do have a match, Goldust versus Tyler Breeze. And it's so funny because Tyler Breeze and Fandango as a tag team is something I could actually sink my teeth into. And Golden Truth, honestly, I would just kind of tolerate if it meant that we wouldn't get any more segments of Will They or Won't They, because I'm really sick of that crap, as everybody knows. But I'll tell you what, Fandango and Tyler Breeze really add a much welcome dimension to this, if for nothing else, a different type of comedy, a different type of comedic relief. They're just glorious at what they do, and I'm just glad to see them get the TV time. So it's made me a bit more forgiving of these Golden Truth segments. But seriously, let's get the swap done, because ultimately I would love to see this end with Tyler Breeze and Fandango becoming a team and being like, we don't need this, and Golden Truth realizing, oh wow, we really can be tag team partners. So
yeah, that way both teams can get a month-long run and then disappear into nothingness again.
Exactly. I mean, better than to just remain in nothingness without having anything at all in the first place. So I'll take what I can get.
I mean, at least they're getting TV time, right?
I mean, that's what I've been saying. That's why I said I've been more forgiving of these Golden Truth segments because, Tyler Breeze and Fandango deserve more TV time with how great they are as personalities. So ain't going to get any complaints from me.
Yeah. Well, up next was actually that match. Tyler Breeze versus Goldust. And really, even though it is Tyler Breeze versus Goldust, the focus of the match was more on R-Truth on the outside and eventually Fandango, who would join him.
Right. Yeah, it was all about those two guys, and really Goldust seeking R-Truth's approval. I mean, he didn't come out explicitly and say that, but he would really get quite frustrated with R-Truth when it seemed like R-Truth wasn't paying attention to Goldust in the ring. And he's just like, hey, look at that. Is that your partner right there, huh? After he would do maybe like a back elbow off the turnbuckles or something like that. He'd be like, yeah, I just did that to your partner. And then he'd start to dance, and then Fandango would think, oh, you're dancing with me, but Goldust would be like, no, not you, and just be so focused on truth. But Goldust being so fixated on truth would actually be his undoing, because Tyler Breeze would come up from behind, get the roll up, and get the win. That's right, people. I've been seeing lately a lot of reports about Tyler Breeze's win-loss record on the main roster. You can color this one a win, baby. He beat Goldust.
I know. I now fully believe that we are in a new era. Tyler Breeze has a victory.
Exactly. And a fatter bank account, which is what he cares about, so everybody wins now.
Right.
Tyler Breeze gets the win.
Yes, sir. Up next is a New Day promo. They come out, and it's not just them either, but they start it. They come out, talk about Enzo's concussion. They do the good guy thing to do and show us Enzo's post-hospital pic where he's giving us the double thumbs up. And then Xavier does the good old, he's okay! They sent him some bootios. When Enzo gets back, the New Day will be waiting for him, but the show must go on. And until then, the WWE World Tag Team Champions will continue to keep up. And then the Vaudevillains come out.
Yep, the Vaudevillains come out, and Aiden English more or less, says that Enzo Amore, he's not a real man, because a real man would have gotten up after what Enzo endured. So I do like that they did try and capitalize on the moment to get some much needed heat for them, because there's just such a major disconnect, I think, between the audience and this type of gimmick, for the Vaudevillains.
I think we knew that would happen with the Vaudevillains, though. I mean, we were both pretty much in agreement that they were more of an NXT act than a main roster act.
Oh, certainly, which is a shame that it's really the gimmick in my mind that's holding them back, because I think in ring, they're good enough workers to be on the main roster.
I'd say Gotch for sure, Aiden, maybe.
Yeah, Aiden is a bit more questionable. I will agree with you that I think Gotch
I
is
literally
superior
had to
in ring.
mute my TV today because he started singing again.
Oh, yeah, which you loathe. And, yeah, they pretty much say, oh, well, Enzo wasn't a real man because a real man would have gotten up. And then they say, as far as tag champions go, the Vaudevillains represent, grapplers and this type of man from a bygone era. And then I think Aiden English, what he sang pretty much was how they were going to take home the tag team championships. And then this kind of surprised me, though maybe it shouldn't have been, because apparently Bubba Ray did tweet out about Enzo's injury. I don't know if it was a heelish tweet or like an out of kayfabe tweet. I don't know the context, but the Dudley Boyz would interrupt. And then they, pretty much told the Vaudevillains, look, you didn't beat Enzo and Cass. The match was stopped. So Bubba says, in my mind, the whole tournament needs to be reset now. Like, that's what needs to go down. And, they pretty much told no, that's not going to happen either. By Big Cass, actually, because then he interrupts and says, look, we already kicked you guys out of the tag team tournament. And as far as the Vaudevillains making fun of Enzo, you're making fun of my family. And I'm not going to tolerate anybody making fun of my family. Pretty much calls the Vaudevillains and the Dudley Boyz soft. New Day, of course, approve of this. They gel very well with Enzo and Cass in the humor department. And ultimately, this all leads to an 8-man tag, Ashton. The New Day and Big Cass versus the Dudley Boyz and the Vaudevillains.
And I loved the dynamic of both of these teams, because you have really Big Cass meshes, like you said, incredibly well with the New Day guys. And then on the other side, you had the grumpy, grizzled old vets in the Dudley Boyz trying to teach the Vaudevillains how to be good tag team heels.
Right, yeah.
I loved that.
I like that dynamic, too, because, I mean, if you do know the Vaudevillains like we do, you know that they are former NXT Tag Team Champions, but I do like, though, that A, the Dudleys are that established veteran team, and B, because of that, they don't give a crap. Whatever the Vaudevillains did down there, it's irrelevant up here. They're going to lead the charge, and I think that makes for an interesting dynamic. And it's a dynamic to me that's logical, because I'd be more weirded out if they got along and they were really a fluid pairing. No, it's trying to exercise dominion within the match. We're these 9-time WWE Tag Team Champions. You've done squat. You've been here for a cup of coffee. You're going to follow our lead. And unfortunately, though, that wasn't the best lead to follow, because after a pretty competitive back and forth, I believe Big Cass pinned Devon after the East River crossing.
Yeah.
So,
telling you, though, man, I mean, those Dudley Boyz, I think that the biggest reason that Aiden English and Simon Gotch let them kind of bossed them around is because they saw it as chivalry, right?
Exactly.
I mean, chivalry is all about doing for those who can't do themselves. And, Aiden English and Simon Gotch just kind of sitting back and letting the Dudley Boyz give them a lesson in how to be the best damn tag team in history, right?
Exactly.
I mean, nobody throws crossfaces quite like Bubba Ray.
Yeah, I love that too. His trash talk where he was instructing them, and then you do the cross faces to it. I love.
And then you pick him back up by the hair, and you give him another cross face. It's so good.
Yeah, dude, his Bully Ray mannerisms in the ring, just so good, good. So yeah, I mean, Cass, which you know what, I felt like again, this is another smart decision by WWE. You have the good diagnosis for Enzo. I mean, yes, it is a concussion, but like everybody's been saying, it could have been far worse, and we're all so thankful that Enzo's okay and he got discharged. And, to give Cass the winning fall rather than, a New Day member say over a vaudevillain, it's a feel-good moment, and it really does preserve the New Day versus the Vaudevillains, which we know is going to happen at Extreme Rules. So, good stuff all around, I think. Very sound booking here.
Yeah, definitely. And Cass looked like a monster, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, the New Day still were able to get their shit in, but Cass, like, the way that he kind of like jumps around and gets himself hyped up for when he's getting ready to tag in on the hot tag, that gets the crowd so into the match. And then he gets in, he does his thing, he throws boots at everyone and kills everyone, and it's awesome. And I think that him getting this opportunity, even though obviously I'm sure that he would much rather be out there with Cass, or with Enzo rather, I think that this is a really good opportunity for him to show not only how fun he is as an in-ring worker and his hot tags and stuff, but also show his personality, because when he first came out here tonight, he cut a really good, entertaining, charismatic promo on pretty much everyone that was in the ring. I mean, you already brought it up about how he said about Enzo as his family, but you also forgot to mention about how he said that he was going to finish what he started last night, and then he went, "As for you, Dudley, do rights. We already knocked you out." Like, I love Big Cass. I think he's underrated as a talker, and he's getting an opportunity to prove that now that Enzo isn't around right now.
Well, what's so funny, Ashton, for those of you that have been, with TWitWoW for a long time, first of all, of course, thank you. And if you remember when we would do our earlier reviews when Enzo and Cass broke out on the scene and we're just really starting to build momentum on NXT, you especially, I feel like, were extolling the virtues of Cass just as a future, top single star.
Yeah.
Because he had the look, he had the height, he clearly had the charisma. And that's the thing. I mean, obviously, I'm glad that Enzo's okay, and I love the act of Enzo and Cass together, but I've never kidded myself. I don't think you have either, although I don't want to speak for you. I do think the day will come when Enzo and Cass have a split, and they do give Cass that big singles push. And, even though this wasn't a singles thing tonight, it was an 8-man tag, I think, it could be foreshadowing for things to come, maybe several years down the road, but I do think it's on the horizon. I do still think there's a huge single star waiting to happen in Big Cass, and he proved that tonight by being able to carry the mic on his own, no Enzo, at the forefront or whatever, and the way he, competed in this match, he got the crowd into it, and again, it was a feel-good moment. So yeah, Cass can definitely carry programs and all that good stuff on his, very broad and impressive shoulders. So good job for Big Cass there.
Absolutely. Up next, though, we had a really cool little acknowledgement from WWE that Charles Robinson has been known as Little Naitch since WCW. They talk about how he used to come out in a Ric Flair robe. He made himself the official referee for 4 Horsemen matches. And Charlotte will address the controversy from Payback later tonight.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that, we get informed of Little Naitch's connection to the Flairs. I think that's very cool that there's actually a little bit of a substantive backstory there going into the controversy last night at Payback. And then we go from the past, in that relationship to the future of Charlotte's explanation. So, again, it's these little decisions that WWE makes that really makes me appreciate them in these moments. This was good stuff. It was simple, but it really works. So there you go.
Yeah, and I completely agree. This was well done. Up next, though, we had our 4th match of the night, Becky Lynch versus Emma. which is a pretty good match. And surprisingly, Emma picked up the win after an eye poke and then a modified sort of hybrid Falcon Arrow Michinoku driver thing.
Yeah, it was really unique. You know what? And I'm glad they did the pinfall victory because I feel like Becky Lynch is, well, I shouldn't say tapped out a lot lately, but given that, she did get a tap out loss at WrestleMania to Charlotte, and I feel like she's tapped out to Sasha Banks before. I could be wrong about that. Why have her eat another submission loss, especially when she is known for her suplexes and the disarmor and all that stuff. So I'm actually glad to see Emma get a pinfall victory here. And just even saying that, Emma getting the victory, I think is so cool. Her with this heel packaging, we've seen the brilliant work that she's done in NXT, most notably, and, the big final thing that she did being the program with Asuka. And then coming up here and doing stuff. Now, obviously, it doesn't get the same notoriety. I mean, the feud she had with Becky Lynch was primarily an online feud through Twitter, Instagram, and WWE's YouTube. But the match itself was solid. I still feel like if you would have given it a bit of extra time and put it on a pay-per-view, they could have really knocked your socks off. But it was good for what it was. And I think Emma getting the win, it's interesting, because she beat Paige, said it was her time, and that was, in the feud with Becky. Now we have the match of this feud on Raw. Emma wins again. And, when you kind of parallel that to what's going on with the WWE Women's Championship picture, could it be Emma's time soon to have a crack at it? I mean, one has to ask. I mean, that would be really cool to me for her to be in the title picture and feud for it, but
dude, you would almost have to think if that was going to happen that would mean Natalya would have to win the title.
Yeah, and I agree. You're not wrong, right? Because you obviously want that heel-face dynamic. I just don't know if WWE's really committed to that program. And as much as I love Emma, I don't think they should be. Like, if they were going to get Emma in the title picture and you're committed to keeping Sasha Banks as a face, that's a rivalry I want to see for that WWE Women's Championship.
Yeah.
Emma and Natalya, I'm not saying it would be bad in ring, but to me, and this isn't even me, like, having fun with you like we usually do, I don't think Natalya has the personality, the charisma, more or less, to be a strong WWE Women's Champion. I know we both have our critiques of Charlotte, and I don't think she has the best personality either, but I do think she's above Natalya, and she's able to skirt by. Obviously, I think Sasha...
Well, and I think for Charlotte, it helps that she has her father there, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I completely agree.
Brett's not going to show up to be with Natalya on every show.
Exactly, nor would I want him to, and nor does, he want to be. I mean, it's made that very clear in interviews. Yeah, exactly. I think Sasha will be the best all-around champion that belt will have, in its short history, because I do think Sasha will be hopefully the second ever, and she won't have to be kind of the passover between Charlotte and Natalya, then Sasha, just Charlotte, Sasha, let's make it nice and seamless. But I don't know. With Emma's stock rising, who's to say what's going to happen? I mean, I've heard rumors of an all-women's Money in the Bank match for that WWE Women's Championship.
Yeah, I've heard about that too. And, I wouldn't be against it, but I really highly doubt that the WWE would ever actually do that.
I doubt it too, but then again, what's funny? And I don't know if you saw this. Sasha held kind of a Q&A on her Twitter today.
Yeah.
And that whole segment backstage where she was talking with Shane McMahon, somebody asked, well, what were you talking about with Shane? And she said big things. Now, I'm not making the connection, that clearly means women's Money in the Bank ladder match, but who freaking knows, man? Because if anybody would come out with this idea, I'll say this, for as much as Stephanie has been pro-woman, I could see Shane giving them that ladder match. I could. I think him being in power is the only credence that rumor has right now. The only one. Because I agree with you. Anything else, it just seems so contrary to WWE's treatment of women. But treating it as truth for just a second, I could see Emma as a viable contender, in that ladder match. With these wins that she's put together, I could see her qualifying for that match. I do ultimately see Sasha winning it personally, but I could see Emma qualifying if it does happen. So we'll see. But yeah, she beats Becky. She's on a little bit of a roll right now. I mean, this second time on the main roster, certainly better than her first stint, and we'll see what it translates into down the road.
Absolutely. All right. So now let's talk about what happened next. We had a Prepico vignette again. They showed off the food of Puerto Rico and talked about how, there's no fast food. There's nothing fake here. There are no TV dinners or anything like that. And showed off all that kind of stuff, and then, of course, they did the old, come to Puerto Rico, the shining star of the Caribbean, and we still don't have a date, so I have no clue when these guys are going to show up. I mean, I think a lot of people, including you, at one point guessed that they would show up on this Raw specifically, and it didn't happen, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really at a loss for words now because you're right. I think I did predict this Raw they would show up because, I mean, how many vignettes are you going to air? Especially now that we know the darker part, or should I say the more volatile part of Puerto Rico with the debt that they've got going on thanks to last week tonight. So now I just kind of feel a bit more bemused at these vignettes than I was originally. Regardless, Prepico is still a great tag team act. I want to see them back in the ring very much. Maybe at Extreme Rules, but I don't know. Like, I'm tired of spitballing. Just either get us a date or get them on TV, preferably the latter, because the sooner we get to see them, the better. But, you know, it's WWE's call. What are you going to do?
Yeah, man. All right. So now up next, we had the Ambrose Asylum with special guest Stephanie McMahon. Man, I got to tell you, Dean did an amazing job here just grilling Steph.
They played off each other so well in this.
Yeah, he was relentless, dude.
And can I say, too, you know, before we proceed any further with this segment, I love, and I know you were kind of telling me the same thing, too, I love this whole passive-aggressive, I got to keep my temper under control because, you know, I'm sharing this with Shane, Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah.
You know, I think all the best characters have to evolve, and, you know, we've had discussions about that in the past, too, and we do feel like Stephanie was one of the best heels. I mean, the only downside is she really had no comeuppance. She really couldn't expend that heat positively. I mean, yeah, the Roman Reigns spear at Mania, but I mean, come on, was that really the best use of all that heat? I don't think so. So it's good to see that she's kind of evolved, and she's no longer, like, smacking people around and really being all yelly, but rather she's more passive-aggressive, which to me makes her, I don't want to say bitchy because that's cliche, but it makes her more malevolent. There we go. Her more malevolent moments, I think, all the richer because, you know, she's trying to keep everything under wraps. And when she lets it seep through, you know, it's going to have a little bit of an extra bite to it. And that's kind of what happens here because, to your point, Dean really grills Stephanie like, oh, well, doesn't it just eat you up? You know, all the soccer games, all the school plays, you know, everything that you missed. So you could be in the boardroom and answer to your father and run this company. And where was Shane? Shane was gone for 7 years. Doesn't that bother you just a little bit? And you could just see, and I got to give credit to Stephanie here where credit's due, because she starts out the Ambrose Asylum, right? Looking all genial and having a smile and, again, trying to keep that facade up, you know, professionalism and good-naturedness and all that stuff. But as Dean is just going on and on about it, you can see the expression change. You can see the facade start to crumble, and her just thinking, like, that son of a bitch, that power should be mine. Yep. Mine! Yep. All mine! And, you know, just going like that. And Stephanie saying, well, you know, I learned a very important lesson from my father. What did she say that lesson was, Ashton? Because I didn't quite catch that. Did you hear what she said what the lesson exactly was?
No.
Was it about compromise or something?
I didn't catch. You're right. She did say that, but I'm right there with you in that I don't remember what exactly the lesson was.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that it was something about compromise and this and that. So, you know, she's going to teach Dean a thing or two. Like, he's been doing this, or I think it was sacrifice or giving up something, because she tells Dean, you know, you've been doing this for
change.
That was so. Thank you, Ashton. I knew it was something given
That's
what we got at the end result. Yeah, I was
trying that sometimes things need to change. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes the most sense given what we got. I was just trying to thank you. So he says, you know, you've been doing the Ambrose Asylum, you know, 4 weeks, but I think it's time for change. So this show is canceled. And Dean, you know, I can never tell if, like, he's really disappointed and he's just really worried about expressing it, or he's just feigning it and he just really doesn't care because he's just kind of, you know, going through the motions of life. I never know with Dean. But he's like, oh, you know, I wanted to be the next Jimmy Fallon or Jay Leno or who was that other guy? And, you know, Stephanie says, you know.
Of course, that was a reference to James Corden.
Right. And Stephanie says, well, you know, we can't just leave this void. So allow me to welcome back the highlight reel. And then Jericho emerges. So, yes, Ashton, to your point, because I know you made that comment on Tweetov, Jericho was trolling us all when he tweeted earlier, oh, I'll be seeing you around WWE. It's been fun. clearly this program isn't over. Interesting, though, that they'd give Ambrose the win at Payback, given all the momentum that I felt like Jericho had recently. But he comes out, him and Ambrose start to brawl. It seems like Ambrose has got the upper hand. They take it back inside the ring. Ambrose looks like he's going to hit Dirty Deeds. Jericho slides out. He hits the code breaker. And, after that, he's just kind of, talking trash to Dean, goes to the outside while Ambrose is recovering. And then tragedy strikes. I mean, first, Francesca.
I know, dude.
Okay? That was bad enough. That was a hardship for all of us. I mean, I would cry in my bed at night for 20 minutes for at least 2 weeks.
Wow.
I get over it.
I got over it in 4 days, but still, 2 weeks. That's ridiculous.
I love the New Day, man. I know you do too. And I just really had a bond with Francesca. But then, I'm like, I can move on. I can open my heart to new relationships. And then I met the Plant. And then I felt like I could heal and move on with my life. But Jericho had other ideas because he becomes fixated on the Plant. He's looking at it. Then he's looking at the back of Dean's skull. And Plant plus skull equals soil everywhere. Because he shatters it over Dean's skull, destroys the Plant, and he sends a message. I mean, Ashton, not to be hyperbolic here, I know Dean was devastated when Seth forcibly dissolved the Shield. But I mean, he told everybody, don't touch the Plant. And Jericho, well, he touched the Plant. So, I mean, he
did more than touch it. He violated the plan, John.
He violated the Plant. Thank you, sir, for putting it in its proper context. He violated the Plant. I mean, he's crossed the line. Mitch the Plant. It's done. He has crossed a line now.
Once you name something, you can't violate that.
Exactly. That's why scientists don't name animal test subjects, because they don't want to grow that emotional attachment during all the experimentation and potential and execution. But that's another story for another time. I mean, we're going to extreme rules, and I feel like Jericho's taken things to the extreme here by violating Dean Ambrose's plan. I mean, I was crushed. Dean Ambrose was laid out, and Jericho really did not give two shits. And clearly Stephanie doesn't either, because the highlight reel is already going to be back underway, just connecting this with a future announcement in the show. The highlight reel is going to be returning on SmackDown with the guest, the underdog from the underground, Sami Zayn. So
you really do not like him at all.
Who?
Sami.
No, I wasn't even saying that like whatever. That's really the nickname he's been calling himself.
No, I know. It was just the tone. Sami Zayn.
Yeah, I mean, I loathe his face whenever it's in relation to Kevin Owens. I mean, Kevin Owens is always going to be superior, but I mean, trying to be objective here, Sami Zayn's a quality performer. He's just lesser than Kevin Owens. That's a fair statement.
Oh, man.
It's a fair statement to make. I didn't do anything wrong here.
You seem kind of salty about this whole Sami situation.
Well, not really much to be salty about, seeing as how my guy won last night. How was yours doing? Oh, that's right. 8 canvas. Who'd have thought?
Hey, man, all I'm saying is my guy didn't even need to work to get put into the Intercontinental title picture. He just showed up and beat your guy up a few times.
You have anything else you want to say about Mitch the Plan, or can we move on?
Does it burn, John?
Moving on, what was our next segment?
Let's see. Our next segment was our 5th match of the night, the United States Championship #1 contendership battle royal. And this was, it was kind of fun. I don't know. I mean, the United States Championship's kind of in a weird place right now. Kalisto was on commentary. I forgot to mention that. He did a pretty decent job. JBL was kind of grilling him, and I think he stood up for himself pretty well, At one point he said about how actions speak louder than words, and even that got JBL to shut up, and that was pretty cool. So, yeah, what do you think about this, John?
Ashton, I'm going to be honest with you, right? Because yeah, I know... Yeah, you would hope, right? I know if say we were doing live reactions to this show, based on how I reacted to the finish, you would have thought that I love this. And I have nothing against the person who won the Battle Royal, which, guys, I'll just come out right now. Rusev won the Battle Royal. Rusev is going to face Kalisto. And I have a few problems with this, though, because I think Rusev as a worker is great. And, the match itself shouldn't even be bad, but I gotta be honest about a few things. One, obviously, look, I love who Rusev eliminated last. It was Zack Ryder. I love that the crowd was actually stupid enough to have hope, only to have it dashed. I mean, I had a good
Hey, man,
laugh.
I wouldn't even really call it hope, but I thought that Ryder might win, too. So am I stupid?
Yes, and I'm laughing at you, too. So, now that I'm laughing at her, yeah, that was for Does It Burn, John? Yeah, screw yourself.
I guess I deserve that, but still, wow.
but Vicious here tonight. In all seriousness, obviously, I like the finish for my own personal reasons, but here's the thing. Am I the only one? First of all, I don't like that all this attention is still kind of on the League of Nations, even though they're not really a thing formally anymore. I mean, Rusev's getting this title shot, and to me, he already had his time with the U.S. title, and it was a great run, and again, I love Rusev, but one, it just feels old to me. It just feels like we're going to familiar territory, even though, again, this match really hasn't happened yet, to be fair. But two, that does bring me to another point, though, where it's familiar. Another bigger guy. Really, am I the only one that's getting kind of tired of Kalisto's title run being predicated on these types of matches?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure you're not the only one, but personally, I'm not sick of it. I don't feel at all, honestly.
I mean, I think it's kind of lucked out in the sense that the bigger guys he's working with are, quality workers, because I loved his series of matches with Ryback. I felt like their kickoff Payback match they had Sunday night, that was actually better than the WrestleMania kickoff match that they had. I feel like that was the best outing they've had. Maybe even better than their SmackDown match for the Survivor Series tournament, but, that may be up for some debate, so that was fine. Del Rio, I mean, those series matches were good, and he doesn't really fit the mold I'm speaking about. So, yeah, I mean, you know what? I do think him and Rusev will do something good. I don't want to do a disservice to these two guys. I think, actually, I was kind of pulling for Sin Cara, to be honest, when I saw that he was in the final few.
You know what, though? I was there with you, too, because him winning would have been really interesting, I think.
Oh, yeah, well, how many people, dude? Or maybe it's just one, but it was so recent that I'm projecting it that it was many. But I do feel like quite a few people in our comment section and just to our TWitWoW fans in general have been saying, oh, guys, wouldn't it be so cool if Sin Cara turned heel? Maybe got the black attire back, really show the heelish side, and him and Sin Cara have a program, or him and Kalisto, have a program for the United States Championship. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm feeling that, man, because it's Hunico, and obviously he doesn't even have to go over, but it would be a different, kind of journey to take with Kalisto's U.S. title reign. I don't know. I just feel like I'm already starting to tire just a little bit of the David vs. Goliath match, but then again, that kind of makes me hypocritical, because I really wouldn't have minded if Baron Corbin won, and that's pretty much the same thing. Yeah. But I can understand why WWE didn't let him win, because why have a guy win a number one contendership match for a championship that lost a match last night? Baron Corbin did lose to Dolph Ziggler, so that makes sense. I have to give WWE
You know what, though? I mean, you say, why would they do that? But that sounds exactly like something that they would do.
I mean, they did it with AJ Styles, more or less, right? He lost to WrestleMania, and then, so yeah, I mean, it's not that WWE has never done it. I just commend them for not doing it in this case, because at least it makes sense.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, Rusev's number one contender. There are worse options, obviously. I don't know. I think what this really is, if I'm being honest, maybe I just really wanted Sin Cara, and I'm feeling a bit salty about it, because I'm like, oh, we could really do something really exciting and new and intriguing. And they go Rusev, which is a fine choice, because the guy, again, I actually think he's still underrated by some people in ring and all this other stuff.
Oh, he definitely is. Yeah,
he can go.
Big time underrated.
And I think where you really give him credit, and I've always appreciated you for this, when we talk about Rusev. The facial expressions, and what I was getting around to is the charisma, because I feel like you've always highlighted Rusev's charisma, whereas I've always highlighted his in-ring acumen, because he's not just another big guy, I really feel like he's got an super athletic, dimension to him there. So, should be a good match. It should be good. We'll see what they do with it. We'll see.
Yeah, all right. So, as far as Rusev winning goes, I almost forgot to give my take on the situation.
Right.
I really like Rusev. I'm kind of in a similar boat to you. For me, I don't mind so much that it was a big dude, because kind of like the same with you, I wouldn't have minded if it was Corbin, or even if they would have given it to Titus O'Neil and had him do a heel run. That would have been interesting, at least. I think my biggest problem is that the League of Nations guys are still getting as much highlight as they are, because as much as I love Rusev, as far as the League of Nations goes, he felt like the lesser of three, or at one point the second lesser of four evils. You know what I mean?
I think you articulated that so well, because I think that was something I was trying to articulate as well, but was kind of struggling with.
I will say, though, Rusev and Lana being back together as that power couple with her on the outside and him just dominating people in the ring, I really like that. And if I'm being honest, just based on what we saw tonight and just kind of knowing the situation and circumstances that are going to be coming in down the road, I could see them putting the title back on Rusev, if for no other reason, for the purpose of dropping it to John Cena.
I agree. And look, and this may be where I come off as a huge asshole in one of the few instances that I don't even mean to.
No, not you.
Yeah, of course not me, right? That's impossible.
No.
I feel like, and it's not even his fault. I don't know, like, I won't call the title reign that Kalisto's had a complete failure, because he just got done, again, a nice string of matches with Ryback, but I feel like the booking, like, you haven't really cared about this guy as U.S. champion. So I feel like if you put the belt on Rusev, especially with Cena coming back, that U.S. title is going to be elevated in the eyes, and I hate to say it, but in the eyes that actually matter, and that's with the bookers and the writers, because then they'll consciously give it a more prominent spot. It's a disservice to Kalisto, because I still feel like the guy could be one hell of a babyface, if you just gave one iota of a fuck. But, that clearly didn't happen. And I think he did a fine job, match-wise, and did everything he could with the time that he had. But I don't know. Maybe this just wasn't meant for him. I don't know. And that's really them talking, not me. I mean, obviously, you and I mean, how much did we go on and on about his babyface potential and the merch sales, and how you could get kids to wear masks and all this stuff?
I think that's a big part of the reason why he still has the title in the first place, because they really don't do anything with him. They just kind of have with the title and, like, yeah, sure, whatever, he's the champ, whatever, go.
And I think that's another reason why, see, like, the more we talk it out, the more I feel like my problems with this Battle Royal, even though I'm fine with the person who won it, really come up to the surface, because yeah, he clearly does move the merch or whatever. Otherwise, like, why keep the belt on him this long? And he does have some connection with the audience. I do think the crowd does get into him when they watch him perform, and he goes to distance and does all that stuff. But that's why, like, give him something interesting, give him something. That's another reason why I think I was pulling so hard for Sin Cara, because I thought, well, it'd be great for Kalisto too, as a champion facing this conflict of, I got to defend this championship that matters to me, but I got to do it at the expense of crushing the dreams of my tag team partner and my friend. That's an interesting story to tell. And, maybe I just kind of wish that WWE had the desire to tell it. But I think him and Rusev will do good things. And I'm actually inclined to agree with you for the moment that Rusev will win the belt back, because as much as I'm intrigued about the prospect of Cena coming back and being like, oh, Kalisto, you've done well in my absence with the U.S. title, but let's see how good you really are, and then they have like a friendly kind of challenge for it. Yeah. I don't think they're going to bestow that honor on Kalisto. I do think it's going with Rusev.
Completely agree, man.
All right, so anything else you want to say, or can we move on?
Up next, we had an announcement that we were going to see Chris Jericho's highlight reel on Thursday, which you already brought up with Sami Zayn. I know you were nice and depressed about that. And then Charlotte comes out with Ric Flair to try and explain the controversy. And I say controversy in hard quotes because she doesn't seem to think that there really even is one. She talked about how people on Twitter were saying that there was controversy, and she was so confused about it. And she called out Charles Robinson himself, Lil Naitch, and they even referred to him as Lil Naitch a couple times in this promo. And he says Natalya verbally submitted, and she was saying, stop it, as in stop the match, and he wasn't biased. But then Natalya comes out, and she gets on the mic. She says, this isn't about Charles Robinson. This isn't even about you, Charlotte. It's about you, Ric Flair. Last night, you paid a ref to screw me out of the women's championship. And then Charlotte goes to attack Natalya, but Natalya one-ups her and kicks her out of the ring. And then she faces off with Rick. Rick takes off his jacket and a bunch of his jewelry. And before he has a chance to actually do anything, Natalya slaps the taste out of his mouth. And then locks him into a sharpshooter. But obviously, because you can't hold an old man in a sharpshooter for too long, Charlotte grabs him, pulls him out of the ring, and Natalya stands tall in the ring, putting on Ric Flair's jewelry and jacket. So that was this segment.
Yeah. I think you pretty much gave great coverage of it, and it's funny because you recounting Natalya's promo had more personality than the actual promo. I don't know why Natalya is still on my television, but it's a thing, and we've got to deal with it. I almost feel like an act of misinterpretation occurred here, because I've been saying that I loathe Natalya, and maybe somehow they got love out of that. I don't know. But we know that these two are not done with each other. I expected Rick to do a Flair flop after that slap, and I actually would have preferred that over seeing him and Natalya sharpshooter, but I digress. Heels get away for now, but we know that Natalya and Charlotte are on a collision course. In fact, we know what exactly they're going to be doing in Extreme Rules, and that came in a segment. I don't know if immediately after or a little bit later.
It was immediately after it, yep.
So we could just get right into that, because they're, walking through. It almost seems like they're going to get in the limousine, go to the next town, but Stephanie stops them and says, this whole Hart versus Flair business, it needs to be settled, and what's the best way to settle it? With a rematch. So it's going to be Charlotte versus Natalya at Extreme Rules. Get this, people, in a submission match. And Rick, I'm sure you won't mind if you're banned from ringside.
You were annoyed by this?
Here's the well, not necessarily annoyed by this. I think it's intriguing and it should be interesting. And it does, again, make logical sense that you finally fucking deal with Ric Flair. But you don't deal with Ric Flair for Becky or Sasha. No, you finally pull that card for Natalya. But I'm gonna let slide. I just had to laugh, right? Had to laugh because, again, for anybody that's been following this program, I know I haven't said it lately, to be fair, but one of the things I used to call for the great submission kind of women's wrestlers, Paige with the PTO, Becky with the disarmor, all this stuff. Oh, wouldn't it be great if we had a submission match and you give it to nepotism? Ugh. But I digress. For the millionth
digressed pretty
fucking time. Yeah, pretty fucking hard. I'm going to digress here. Because I still think that Charlotte's going to retain. Or I'll put it to you this way. She better retain, or live reactions is going to be very interesting, because it's going to see the tumor that's lodged in my brain activate. And then the rest isn't going to be pretty. So, before I get any more volatile or violent, Ashton, what do you think about this match occurring in Extreme Rules? Share with us your thoughts.
I mean, I feel like we should probably address the fact that you have a tumor in your brain first.
It's fine. There's a 50-50 chance it's malignant. So, you're totally cool with this match then.
I'm more cool with this match than I am with the brain tumor.
Well, look, if that doesn't matter, okay? Look, if Charlotte retains, it'll probably explode. Probably. I know medical science doesn't work that way, but fuck it, it's my tumor. I make the rules. So, with that in mind, is there anything else you want to say about this segment?
No, I guess not.
All right, we can move on.
I'm really glad that you kind of let that be known on TWitWoW, though.
You're welcome there, pal. You're welcome.
I'm not freaking out at all, I promise.
We're gonna be fine.
I mean, we might be, but will you be?
Oh, I'll be good.
How good?
Really good. Which, was that like our next segment or no?
Well, our next segment was the main event of the evening, so I'd say it was pretty solid.
Yeah, that works. Great back and forth between the two teams. Really broke down towards the tail end. I mean, really turned into quite the skirmish, if I do say so myself.
Oh, and, yes, indeed, sir.
I loved, it was a bit awkward, but I'll tell you what, the impact was worth the wait. The boot of doom to Roman Reigns on the outside. It seemed like, because Gallows was holding Reigns up, right? And then Anderson does the boot, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's the right sequence. Yeah, and it seemed like he was waiting a while for him, but then when it came around, it was like, oh, that was so good. And then the finish. I liked the finish, because I think it was Jimmy Uso that was going to do a dive, I guess, to Anderson and Gallows, take them out, but AJ intercepted it with a phenomenal forearm. Like, That's how you sell me on that being a finish WWE. I mean, your booking, to be fair, has been solid with it, but moments like that, it's like, oh shit, he got him, and then it was 3 counts. So Anderson, Gallows, and AJ win the match, which is funny because I don't think we addressed the segment that set up all of this. Roman Reigns taking it to AJ because AJ, Anderson, and Gallows were talking. They were confident that AJ could win the world title at Extreme Rules because anything goes and we have your back and all that stuff. And then Roman was actually the one that issued this 6-man tag challenge. So Roman issued it, and AJ won it. So that's got to feel pretty good for all the Roman Reigns haters. AJ, Anderson, and Gallows get the win. After the match, Anderson and Gallows are immediately like beating down on Roman Reigns. They restrain him. They get a chair in there, and they instruct AJ to hit Roman Reigns. He refuses to do so. Anderson and Gallows resume the beatdown on Reigns since AJ has decided not to use the chair. And then the Usos, being the wonderful people they are, they use the chair on AJ Styles. They start to battle back. It seems like things are going to be, in their court. But then AJ turns it around on them. He gets the chair. He uses it on them. And who wakes the fuck up but Roman Reigns?
I will say, as much as I hate the fact that they're still doing everything in their power to keep Roman relatively moral, I appreciate the nuance of the storytelling here. Because basically, the way that this was set up, you have AJ refusing to hit Roman on the head, which keeps AJ face. Gallows and Anderson want him to, keeps them heel. The Usos are a little bit questionable. They're the only really questionable ones, though. But they really are just trying to... They mostly went after Anderson and Gallows. But then AJ starts attacking them with a chair, not because he is like trying to hurt them, but because he wants them to stop hurting his boys. But all Roman sees in this entire exchange is AJ attacking the Usos with the chair. So immediately he goes into defense mode, or I guess in this case, attack mode, and decides that AJ needs to pay for hitting his cousins, and he Superman punches AJ. So even though, to us, to the viewer, Roman comes off as a huge dick, he still has that out in that, like, he didn't see that the Usos were the instigators. You know what I mean?
Right. I can give you that. I do think the way it was set up, because I know I had some friends of mine complaining, this makes no sense, this, that, and the other, and I could sympathize to a degree where they were coming from, but I think the way you framed it also makes sense too. It's not like Roman Reigns saw the entire scene unfold. He only saw, the critical final moments, and then just pieced everything together from those moments, being incredibly, uninformed and a lot missing out of context. He was missing a lot of context in the situation.
Exactly.
So with that, in mind, Roman then proceeds to beat the shit out of AJ Styles, which is punctuated with a powerbomb through the announce table. So, yeah, that's really hyping up, because their extreme match at Extreme Rules is an Extreme Rules match. All of that stuff is going to be legal, which the commentators were sure to really emphasize and point out and all that good stuff. And Roman stands tall here. So I'm hoping AJ gets his revenge either next week on Raw or even this Thursday on SmackDown. Maybe he returns the favor. But I got to be honest, even though I'm pretty confident that Roman Reigns is going to retain, I am looking forward to their rematch. I like how these two work together, both in an in-ring capacity and, in a storytelling capacity. It's been fun. So I'm not really going to have any complaints here. And it was quite a beatdown by Roman to end the show.
Yeah, and I think that they're also kind of continuing Roman looking like a dick.
Exactly, which I like.
Right, like even if he isn't a full-blown dick, he still looks like one,
Exactly, because of course, he's not a bad guy or a good guy. He's just a dick. I'm not even going to finish it. He's just a dick.
Guy.
Yeah, there you go. Anything else you want to say about this?
No, man. I feel like this would have been a really easy segment for me to hate, but I actually ended up enjoying it quite a bit.
I'm glad, dude, because I really do. I was kind of half and half, not necessarily hating it, but like, oh, really, again, Roman, like, you're doing this? And have like, oh, well, this is at least good build-up, because Anderson and Gallows, I guarantee you, I wouldn't be surprised if either on a Raw or a SmackDown in the lead-up to Extreme Rules, they start questioning, like, oh, AJ, what happened when we used to run together in Japan? You were never like this, but refusing a chair and all this stuff that you're doing, man, we don't even know you, man, and like all that stuff. Not necessarily saying like spitting in his face, but just really feeling confounded at AJ's behavior. Yeah. And then we get the unveiling of Power Club, which I have to laugh saying that, because I mean, my God, after all that stuff with Payback, do I even want to go down that road again? But yep, I'm going to be that guy. That's how I really think it's all going to be facilitated. They're going to really start questioning AJ's behavior. We don't even know who this AJ is, and they go looking elsewhere. They go back to the source a guy that's not afraid to use a steel chair. So that's how I think it's all going to unfold. We
Oh
shall
my
see.
God. I love the way you put that. Guy that's not afraid to use a steel chair. That's just so you.
I know, right? I
Yeah,
love you
violence.
so much. Yeah. All right. With that said, let's move on to our next segment. High spots, low shots. I'm going to make this real simple. My low shot is Zack Ryder.
Oh, you're too freaking predictable, man.
Hey, look, did he or did he not lose the Battle Royal being in the final two? Was it not a soul-crushing defeat for Zack Ryder?
Did I even suggest that was the case?
I'm just making sure that we're all speaking the same language here.
We are.
So there you go. Zack Ryder's my low shot. Who's your low shot?
I think I have to make my low shot, as much as I hate it, Becky Lynch, because even though it was an eye poke, she did lose. And she was really the only person that lost at least semi-clean tonight. Really. I mean, if you think about it, Cesaro and Owens got thrown out, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Cesaro won by DQ. And then Breeze pinned Goldust to a roll-up, but it was because of a distraction. And then, New Day and Big Cass won, but it was 8 guys. I'm not going to give any of those single guys a high spot for that. And then, the Battle Royal, I'm not going to give anyone a low shot in that because you already took the best low shot possible out of that. And then in the main event, I already kind of talked about how I feel like everyone respected. So it really does just come down to Becky lost, basically clean. I know Emma technically cheated, but she didn't get caught, so she didn't really cheat, right?
Right.
So yeah, I got to give my low shot to Becky, as much as I hate to do it.
My high spot, and I can't believe I'm saying this, my high spot's going to be Sami Zayn.
Ooh.
I mean, he stood tall in the skirmish.
He did it again. He inserted himself into a title picture without earning it.
What a Frank Underwood. But,
yes! That was the best possible analogy to make.
I'm so glad you liked it, because I really didn't want to be judged. I was very self-conscious about it.
I judged you. The judgment was just positive.
Hooray! Yeah,
I was twisted.
Yeah, I was really self-conscious about it, so I appreciate it. So, Sami Zayn is my high spot. I mean, being, again, completely sincere, he had a moment tonight. It's one thing to say something's, oh, that was a great segment or that was fun. That was a legitimate career moment for that man, because all of those people going yes at the sight of him holding the Intercontinental title is something that I think is going to stay with him. And I'll even get a little sentimental. When you come back from an injury like he did and you have to work back up to your main roster spot, to get that from that crowd, which was great all night.
Yep.
He earned it, man. He earned it.
Props to the crowd tonight. They were great.
Props to the crowd and props to Sami Zayn. He earned that one, and nothing but respect. I'll be civil in this case. He's my high spot.
Well, I'm glad that you're taking this as a civil case.
Yes, indeed. Who's your high spot, bro? I'm curious.
Well, I gotta say, my high spot is actually going to be someone that I mentioned very briefly in our low shot discussion. My high spot's Big Cass, because not only did he get the winning pin in that tag match, but he also showed what he can do by himself as a talker without needing Enzo Amore, who is just infinitely charismatic, to back him up. And I'm really proud of what Cass accomplished tonight.
I completely agree. I think Cass showed the upside that you and I, particularly on this program, saw in him when the Enzo and Cass tandem was really gaining steam on NXT. And
yeah, it goes back to that taco stand promo.
Yeah.
About how you guys are a couple of tacos, and I'm not talking about the hard ones. And then Enzo the whole time was just like, wait, what do you mean? What other kind of tacos are there? And then by the end, he's just like, I got it, dude. I got it. They're not hard tacos because they're SAWFT. And the whole time, Cass was just tearing down. I think it was Rusev was one of them. It was Rusev and Scott Dawson at the time for some reason. I don't remember. I think it was a Sylvester LaForte Legionnaire thing. And
right.
Yeah, they were talking about how you need to put on some shoes. It's just so good.
Right.
Yeah, that was kind of the first time that I really realized wow, Cass is legit.
Yeah, dude, definitely. All right, with that said, let's get into our final segment of the night.
All right.
Raw request, and I don't even need to pass the buck to you first because I already have my Raw request. I did my homework this week. Raw request. I want Shane to be featured more prominently on this Raw next week, and I do think they're going to do it because if you notice, he had the opening segment, but it pretty much seemed to be Stephanie the rest of the night. And even if Shane did show up in places that I'm forgetting, I do think Stephanie had the majority of screen time. Let's flip the script next week. You can have Stephanie be a part of the opening segment, but I want Shane to really have that backstage presence as Stephanie had this week. I think you need to kind of change it. So
I can dig that for sure.
That's my Raw request. What's your Raw request?
I like your Raw request. My Raw request is to continue and maybe even expand upon the idea that you could have more than one women's segment in an episode of Raw, because tonight we had two, but one of them was a shorter match and the other one was basically revolving around men, being Ric Flair and Charles Robinson. I'd like to see more. I want, at the very least, 2 again next week, if not more than 2.
Right, that would be great. Yeah, I happily co-sign onto your Raw request. I think that's a great idea. And with that said, do you have any concluding remarks about this Raw?
No, I don't think I do. I think this was a solid show, like I said earlier, 7.5 out of 10. No complaints, and let's take it home, brother.
All right, guys. With that said, this has been Raw. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Ashton, what question you have for our subscribers this week?
What do you think is going to end up happening regarding the Intercontinental Championship? Do you think it's going to be a Fatal 4-Way, or do you think that we're going to get a 1-on-1 match with another 2 of the guys involved being in a number 1 contenders match?
Ooh, that's an interesting alternative. Yeah, guys, get the conversation started down in the comments. Be sure to take that conversation over to Pweetoff. That is Pro Wrestling is taking over Facebook. They do a Monday Night Raw thread every week. You can have your voice heard there. Also, be sure to check out the TWitWoW Facebook page. Like, share, and comment on all the content there. If Facebook isn't your medium of choice, we are also on Reddit. On the TWitWoW subreddit, you can find all of our TWitWoW content, and members of the TWitWoW subreddit can create threads of their own on all things related to pro wrestling. However, for the very best TWitWoW experience, I highly recommend you follow both of us on Twitter. I am at John_TWitWoW. That is JOHN_TWitWoW. Had to do it.
I love it.
And my cohort and commentary here is at apond404. That's the letter A, pond, the body of water, POND 404. And we will see you again for our Lucha Underground live reactions. It's Lucha Underground. It's TWitWoW. That combination is always epic. You're not going to want to miss it. And then immediately after that, our Lucha Underground review. And until then, tune in and peace out.